my major, or my only success, I think, must be the work I did with the angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, because they have come all the way from experiments done in the lab to a effective and important therapeutic agent. There's no doubt that cardiovascular medicine has benefited enormously. People have benefited enormously from the angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors because of their effect on hypertension. Now, what these inhibitors do is they block angiotensin converting enzyme. Angiotensin converting enzyme is important because it is the essential step that converts an inactive product, which is angiotensin 1, circulating in the body, to the active product, which is angiotensin 2, which raises your blood pressure and does other things. So if you block that enzyme, no matter how much angiotensin 1 is formed, it doesn't have any effect because it's an inactive product. And that was that essentially is what the inhibitors do. What's interesting is that all the experts and even most of the drug companies did not believe that an angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor would be effective in what we call essential hypertension. We don't really know what causes the hypertension. But somebody actually did the experiment and they showed that this stuff actually worked in a model of essential hypertension. That was it. They were off and running. And now, of course, you use angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors for more than hypertension, congestive heart failure, protect the kidneys if you're a diabetic, and so on and so forth. And I think it was the success of the converting enzyme inhibitors that allowed the companies, because they did most of the work, to go back to looking for an angiotensin receptor antagonist, which is now almost as popular as converting enzyme inhibitors as a treatment for hypertension. So, I mean, I think the way in which the work went from the initial extract, I mean, Sergio Ferreira brought this brown goo, which was a particular extract of a Brazilian snake venom. It's interesting, that same venom has an enzyme which makes bradykinin. When the snake bites you, it injects the venom in, and half of the venom makes bradykinin in your blood, because it has a kallikrein type of enzyme. And the sort of other half of the venom contains something which Sergio called bradykinin potentiating factor. It was something which made bradykinin, which generally speaking doesn't last for long in blood, last longer. It potentiates the action of bradykinin. And that was what he brought over, that's what we were going to have a look at. And eventually, because, you know, brown goose are not very nice to work with, we did have a look at it, and much to us, certainly to my surprise, it inhibited angiotensin conversion as well as affecting bradykinin clearance, inactivation. And this new activity was completely uncalled for, unpredicted, so, you know, it was clear that Sergio would have to do something, and in fact he went back and collaborated with a guy from Brookhaven in New Jersey, not no, Long Island, and to isolate from this goo several specific peptides. Sergio had been working on this venom because of his bradykinin connections. His supervisor was a very famous Brazilian pharmacologist called Rocha Silva. And Rocha Silva had essentially discovered bradykinin. He was the first person to show that this happened, that you've got bradykinin generation, that it was a peptide, a nonopeptide. I think they knew that. They weren't quite, I don't think he showed that, I don't know, he didn't show the formula. He wasn't able to sequence, but he characterized bradykinin as one of the one of the peptides that could be generated. And it could be generated in everybody by kallikrein, which again was an everyday enzyme in blood, which had itself to be activated by usually an inflammatory cascade, inflammatory stimulus. So bradykinin, it's interesting, bradykinin lowers your blood pressure, and it turns out that it's the same enzyme, angiotensin converting enzyme. It happens to be the same enzyme that destroys bradykinin